absolutely batty.
Thank you.
9 to noon.
Just listen.
Football Feast.
I gotta turn this down, Bob.
Oh, well.
Handoff Jahmyr Gibbs. He stumbles, but it doesn't matter. Gets to the left side, 20-15-10. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. Jahmyr Gibbs, assassination of the Minnesota Vikings, continues. He did it at U.S. Bank Stadium, and he just ran in from 25 yards out, and the Lions have a 6-0 lead. Jordan Addison, Jalen Naylor, and Justin Jefferson to the right. Now J.J. goes in motion to the left to join T.J. Hawkinson. 4th and goal for the Vikings from the 3. Darnold, shotgun, takes the snap, 4-man rush, looks right, sees nothing, swings to the left, throws, incomplete. Off the right hand of Justin Jefferson, who has outstretched arms for multiple reasons. He looks at the side judge thinking he was held, but he might be thinking, Sam, can we have a pass B on time? Jared Goff out of the shotgun, 3 receivers left. Gibbs stands up tall to the right of Goff. Block right to tight end in motion. The Vikings blitz. Cashman was held. Here's a pass and a touchdown for the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions have taken a 16-9 lead. And the touchdown goes to Jahmyr Gibbs, who just on first down, hand off Jahmyr Gibbs. He heads to the left side, steams to the 10, to the 5, to the end zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. And Jahmyr Gibbs has hit the trifecta. He has 3 touchdowns tonight against the Minnesota Vikings, 23-9 Detroit. First and goal from the 3, and Jared Goff goes out of the shotgun, gives it to Gibbs, looking for touchdown number 4. Plows up the middle, into Blake Cashman, really, and Jahmyr Gibbs absolutely pushed everything that is purple and gold into the end zone, and now he's hit the superfecta. 4 touchdowns for Jahmyr Gibbs, and it's 30-9 Detroit. Hey, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Buffalo Wild Wings Savage, playoff feasting, and Ram is set to be served. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, let's pump it up a little bit around here, okay? Forget that Lions loss, and let's move on to the Rams. Jared Wells, ladies and gentlemen, the master mixer of the sound here, engineering 9 to noon. Nick Madden's street team is here to serve your every desire. And with Paul Charchi, and I'm Paul Allen at Buffalo Wild Wings Savage. It is the Friday football. Hey. Ladies and gentlemen, our featured guest out of the gate, one of the great defensive players in the history of purple and gold football. Can I get a witness? And a raucous round of applause for Chad Greenway.
Playoff week.
Courtesy of Grey Duck and grayduck.com. All right, so we got the Minnesota Vikings game on Monday night. We have the Minnesota Vikings game, Monday Night Football, now in Arizona. If you think the Vikings are going to win, or if you're going to root like the Dickens for them to win, make a lot of noise.
How do I root like the Dickens? Exactly.
Ask Charles. But first, we have business to take care of on Sunday so we can get this football team back home for the divisional round. And what that means, hold your noses. A cold shower may be required.
Oh, boy.
But we are Green Bay Packer fans on Sunday. Listen to this.
I feel like a jerk. I'm rooting for the Pack to win just one game. And I regretfully say I'm rooting for the Pack to beat Philly.
Well done, Nordo.
Go Pack, go.
No.
Bow down.
No. Don't go that far.
No, they can't do it.
By the way, after Green Bay beats Philadelphia, there's a game right after that.
And if we can get the road team to win that game and we win Monday night, we come back to the palatial purple paradise. So go Commanders, 3-2 base.
Commanders! Commanders!
I never heard the Washington fight song until now.
Excellent.
One of the greats. For the producer of 9 to Noon, Eric Nordquist, not only for that, but whoop 'em bang ginkle style. Round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. That's good work back there, Matt, producer.
I needed him to make that interception and touchdown in the worst way.
So the A topic is the game we know is in Arizona Monday night.
Yeah.
So from Chad, from a player standpoint, Chad's appearance, by the way, courtesy of Grey Duck Vodka, Grey Duck Spirits. Good morning, 3-2. From a player standpoint, like if you were to channel your inner 5-2 from back in the day, and it had been talked about, and the sadness that is the fires in Southern California, people watching and following and stuff, and wondering where you were going to play, and now you have an answer. Is that any factor into this game?
Well, it certainly isn't a factor for us, and good morning. I mean, I think you think about this week, when you're going to go on the road in the playoffs, it's playoff week. What happened last week is gone. So leave it alone, fans. Leave it alone.
Gone? Is it
gone.
The players?
It's gone.
I mean,
it's gone.
Okay, that sounds good, but is it really gone?
The mentality of in the locker room and the mentality on the practice field is all forward facing. So, I mean, you don't have those thoughts thinking back to what happened last week. You make adjustments based off of things that you think the Rams could take from that game. So red zone offense, some misses we had, some plays called. You have to look at those things just to get better and to self-scout. But moving forward, mentality-wise, this is a new season. You had to get yourself in the tournament. And if you'd have told us 6, 8, 10 weeks ago, beginning of the season, that we were going to be in this position, we'd all have taken it, right? And to sit there at 14-3 and still not get home field is wild. But here we are. And when you think about just going on the road, our mentality doesn't change at all. We knew we were going to travel. We knew we were going to travel west. The time zone's going to be the same regardless of where we're going to travel to. It's a huge advantage for Vikings fans because I know what that crowd's going to look like in Arizona.
It's going to be mostly purple.
Heavy purple.
It's going to be mostly purple.
We always look forward to going to Arizona during the season, especially late in the year, because Vikings fans are either living there or they want to go there and get warm real quick. And it's just in time for us to get cold here in Minnesota. So we want to go. I mean, this is an advantage for the Vikings without question.
I believe, unless I read the tweet or the email wrong yesterday, I think tickets for Rams season ticket holders go on sale at 10 a.m. Central this morning. And then for the general public, I believe they go on sale at noon. So I think it's through SeatGeek, which I know Paul Charchian will be a big fan of when it comes to
the fees. Love it. Oh, yeah, would love those fees, man.
But
you get so much out of those fees. You get all the great customer service that they're known for.
Go ahead.
You get all the great return policies. Yeah. Oh,
hey,
I love paying those fees.
Nate Swenson, hold up on the SeatGeek endorsement that's coming for 2025. But anyway, and I kind of put myself in that spot anyway. So I don't know how that's going to work. Nobody knows how it's going to work. Like, are all seats going to be available? I mean, is there the markup? I have no idea how that's going to work, but it feels like you can get 2, 3, or 4 juicy ones behind the Vikings bench in like the 20th row, actually for something at face value or close to face value. And you know, I've now said this 3 times, and hopefully it hasn't changed over the course of the last couple of decades. But I think the biggest Minnesota Vikings fan base, like fan club outside of this state, is located in San Diego. So that's relatively close to Arizona. So like Chad said, if I'm accurate and these seats are made available to the public at noon today, I bet you they just scoop up 10, 20,000 of them, come out there and skull chant with us all.
Well, you think about fan bases in the NFL and proud fan bases. I don't think you look at the Rams in LA, which is a heavy corporate ticket base. It has to be. I mean, you look at just the Rams, obviously, in St. Louis and going back from LA there. Right. Now it's back and forth. Do we really think they're going to drive south to go to Arizona and go pick up these tickets or jump on a plane? I have my doubts. But I do know for one thing,
they can't go home.
They can't. Yeah, well, that's a good point. Sadly enough.
Yep.
But one thing I do know for a fact is that the purple will show up, and they will fly, and they will drive, and they'll do what they have to do. So I'm fired up to see what the crowd's going to look like.
Charge, do you think this will be a bit when the tickets are made available? And again, I think it's 10 a.m. Central for the Rams season ticket holders and noon Central for everybody else who wants to go to this wild card game, where the conglomerates are going to scoop up, a bunch of them and then like resell them for higher price.
I don't think that's going to be the case here because they don't know for sure what the market is, that there's going to be a big demand for it. So I know what you're talking about. Speculators who will buy big blocks of tickets, thousands of tickets, hope the value goes up and then try to sell them the thousands of tickets at a profit. This would be a dangerous move for them because they don't know that there's a built-in audience.
Great point.
It's one thing if you're doing it with Taylor Swift tickets, right? There's going to be demand for those. This is a neutral site wild card game, and so I think regular fans will get in at 10 o'clock. The Rams season ticket holders will have the opportunity to buy first. Neither of them will take that offer, and then the Vikings fans will be able to come in and scoop all the rest.
This sounds to me like the best owners in all of sports, the Will family, are going to probably buy about $9 million in tickets and resell them for $2.5 million. And you're going to be in the second row behind the bench rooting for your favorite team. It might be that.
Love it.
I mean, if you have the means to do it, vacation time, you've got some extra funds available. This is kind of a once-in-a-lifetime thing, right? I mean, this weird neutral site suddenly available, fly to a warm weather city, go see your favorite team. This doesn't come around very often.
But also, I'm just thinking off the top of my head of the people that I know from Minnesota that are currently in Arizona living there.
Yes, many.
Just might be like, I'm just going to drive across town and go to this football game.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Just like they did late December when we played in Arizona during my careers. You would show up, it would literally be 50-50, if not 60-40 Vikings fans. It's one of those situations we talk about natural disasters. You never can, account for these things.
Yeah.
What a horrible situation to be in. The NFL has been there's been a situation before where a game has to move, but to lose a home field advantage for the Rams is just a tough L to take. And again, may not determine the outcome because I'm not sure their home field advantage is that great in LA. But it's still not your home stadium. It's not normal. You're on a plane. You're flying just like we are. You're staying in a hotel just like we are.
Yeah.
And so that is now neutral site.
Maybe in fairness, this permits us the opportunity to hearken to December of 2010. Chad Greenway was on the Minnesota Vikings. The snow fell hard and heavily, and the dome roof collapsed. And now all of a sudden you're playing Monday Night Football at Ford Field, and there's a scene about, I'd say, 2 hours, 15 minutes in front of that game. Being down on the field, I think Chad was out on the field. They didn't charge for tickets to that game, all right? And if there aren't a lot sold here, well, I mean, they just might open the doors and say, Scottsdale, Chandler, Tempe, come on down. And it just may be like copyright Dave Matthews, ants marching, just flying to the best seats available. I don't know, man. They gotta get people in the building.
Yeah, I think when you look at that game, when we played the Giants in Detroit in the home game, it was an incredibly weird crowd. Nobody knew what to expect. I think there's a couple airplanes of Vikings fans coming over, and there's of course some Vikings fans, but it was such a quick turnaround that a lot of them didn't show up for good reason. And the crowd was just like, it's like playing in London. It's like nobody really knew what to cheer for, who to cheer for, than a good game, and to be inside out of the Detroit cold for a little while. Having said all those things, we still have to cover the receivers the Rams have. And that really comes down to the issue.
To deal with.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the game, from the last time we played out there,
Week 8,
the third down conversions were just backbreakers for us defensively. Going to Nakua and got to have it situations. We didn't think he was going to play. He plays. He comes in as an immediate impact. Well, now we're dealing with a full contingent of Rams, and it's not the team that I wanted to play. It was actually probably the last team I wanted to play going to the playoffs. Just knowing what they have in the back end, from the receiving core, and what we've had issues with in the back end.
Wow!
If we want to pressure and run a lot of man coverage, we're gonna have to deal with those guys one-on-one, and our guys are gonna have to step up and play.
Well, I mean, last team you would want to play. I mean, I don't know if it would be PTSG, post-traumatic, or PTGS, Gibbs syndrome. I don't know if I ever want to see Jahmyr Gibbs again. I mean, well, actually, I'd like to see him in a week.
Yeah, right.
Yes, I would.
I would prefer go Pack go, then go Commanders go, then go Vikings go, and we come home and play somebody. But this Jahmyr Gibbs is just a thorn in the proverbial side of your Minnesota Vikings, and good morning.
And every other team, by the way. He's awesome. He leads the NFL in touchdowns.
Yeah.
It's not just us.
He has 9 touchdowns against us in like 3 games or 4 games.
He is something of a Viking killer. Yes.
Well, I thought we were looking forward, guys, but now we're looking back again at how good Jahmyr Gibbs is. But look, you think at the flow of that game. And you're watching that game last weekend, and we're all watching it. We're all on the edge of our seats wanting the Vikings to do well. And you look in that first half and see the drives that we had inside the 10 and the opportunities we had that we've all talked about that were missed. We've all talked about the missed throws. But what it comes down to me is the same thing we went back-to-back losses is when you have Sam that starts to dial in on I have to get the ball to 18. And I'm not saying he's forcing it. I'm saying there's other folks open.
Yeah.
When you work backwards and we're going to get this guy open, Addison open, we're going to get Hawkinson open, we're going to get the ball to the back. And then, by the way, we have 18 who you have to cover all the time.
Right.
Work this thing backwards rather than trying to force it to 18 early. That's what I saw was every time when you get to a panic situation or a short field, they're blitzing, bringing pressure, their front four is getting to us. His default is 18.
Yeah.
And he was open. They were missed. Guess what? It's football. So Sam's, you look at the lion's share of his season has been incredible. That is the average. That is who he is. This was a one-off game. I like our chances moving forward. I'd love to play Detroit again because if that first half, those drives end differently, the game is different.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're prepping for a team you've already played, is the prep week different? When you've got tape to watch, right?
Yes,
You go back and watch the week 8 tape. How does the preparation week differ when it's a team you've already played?
Well, this is where you get to a situation where you play a team twice, 3 times, where you start to see ghosts and you start to see too much film. So you go back and you self-scout. What did we do? What did they do? What was their reaction? We made a change at halftime. We made an adjustment on sidelines. What was their adjustment to that? Mostly in protections, mostly in route combinations. And then what are we doing defensively? Are we pressuring? Offensively, what are we giving them? Were we able to run the football? You look at all those things. Self-scout is the most important thing of what we did. Because that's how they're going to react to us. You can look at all those things, but at the end of the day, it's come down to one call after one call after one call, down in distance and situation. So you're going to have your gotta-have-its, your plays you're going to go to in those situations that you like and trust. And at the end of the day, it's going to can guys make plays? Can we hold up defensively or offensively at the O-line, give Sam time? Can we get guys to separate? We know we have guys that can do that. Can we go identify where our best matchup is and advantages and go hit that and convert? You look at last week with going forward to 4th down and kicking the field goal. Guys have to execute plays.
Yeah.
It doesn't, we can blame coaches all day long. It is on the guys on the field to make the plays. And it's got to have it time right now. Every play we had called could have been a winner. And it just didn't happen because of execution.
Hey, preach. Pump it up in here, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's go.
My man's up there.
Playoff week.
Up there, playoff preaching.
Week 1.
One of several things that I felt was amazing from the week 8 game. And when I say amazing, I mean it's just you don't see it too frequently. One involved the game, the other involved the quarterback Matthew Stafford tied to Chad Greenway. Now that I look back at it, but when I started looking at week 8, all 4 Rams touchdowns came from 70 yards. Okay. They kind of dominated the time of possession, 33 and change to 26 and change. That was a little bit of a problem in the game. But I'm like, damn, all these touchdowns are 70 yards. Why? Because their counterpunch to every Viking score wasn't good. It was elite. Vikings would score. Alabama kid would kick it out of the end zone. They start at the 30. They go 70 and score a touchdown. So after every Viking score, the Rams scored.
Yeah.
And so therefore it's jab and then a counter jab, counter jab. Then we made the mistake of kicking a field goal. They threw a roundhouse with a touchdown and they got the lead and they would never look back. So that was the Vikings had some domination to them in this game in the early stages, but the Rams countered every single time with these 7, 8, 9, 10 play drives, chewing on that clock with the short stuff. I fully expect them to do that again Monday night.
Yeah, I think when you look back at that game, just from my mindset when I was watching, was the back-breaking third-down conversions, which is exactly what I said earlier on.
Yeah.
You're allowed to get those drives of 70 yards, maybe a 10, 12-play drive, because you're getting to 3rd and 6 and you're converting. You're getting to 3rd and 8, converting. 3rd and 3, you're converting. And you trust your guys are going to make those plays. And who do you go to the majority of those third downs without looking at the numbers? I got to believe it was Nakua. He trusts him. He trusts him to get open. He trusts him to make the catches. Mm-hmm. And so it's going to come down to, I love the mentality of we're going to bend that break, sit back, and make you go 70 yards and see if you can do it over and over and over again. That's great if you can get off the field on 3rd down, because then all of a sudden you get the advantage, you get the punt, and away we go. We weren't able to flip the table and do it in that game. That doesn't mean we're not going to be able to do it in this game.
How about this? All right, Matthew Stafford, the first overall pick in the 2009 draft. Now, our main man here, after his illustrious career, retired 8 years ago. Okay, Stafford's still going.
Good Lord.
My man retired
I look good, though.
Retired 8 years ago. The quarterback we're trying to sack and batter and bludgeon and beat on Monday night, Chad played Matthew Stafford 15 times during his career. And
wild.
But how about this? How about Chad being like, rumor has it you were the first overall pick in the 09 draft. I watched some of your games when you played for the Georgia Bulldogs. Got this nice curly hair and everything. And a big, strong arm. We hear you're a really good quarterback. In Stafford, the second game of Matthew Stafford's career. All right? And that's the quarterback we play Monday. Greenway sacked him 2 times just to welcome him to the National Football League.
Let's go. I didn't have a lot of sacks back then either.
Actually picked him off. He picked him off a couple of times just to show him you got the strong arm, but it ain't that easy.
09 in Detroit.
2015, Chad sacked him, and now the Vikings had 7 sacks that game. So Chad just like, hey, everybody else has a sack. I think I got to get involved here.
One of those.
Second game of Stafford's career, you picked him off twice. What are you doing to this kid, man?
Yeah, I think it was one of those deals where we obviously play him twice a year. I got him twice that game. I think I got him 2 or 3 other times in my career. So I am available this weekend if
needed.
If they need me.
Yeah.
I can drop back a couple times. The ball tends to find me against Stafford. I got about 10 plays in me.
The best.
But no, I think when you look, Stafford, when he came into the league, it hasn't changed. His arm strength was Favre-like with the power, the accuracy. He obviously was a little bit of a gambler early in his career. He's really cleaned that up. Obviously, going to win the Super Bowl, it helps when you have Calvin Johnson to throw to. He was always open.
Yeah.
That guy was ridiculous.
He didn't need to get open, by the way.
Just, ridiculous. I'm like looking at the receiver like he's my weight, like 3 inches taller than me. Like this doesn't make any sense. But Stafford's a guy, though, that will still give you opportunities. And this defense has been really good at taking opportunities and flipping them. You talk about Van Ginkel.
Yeah.
Seems to be in the right place, right time with his reactions. If he catches that and goes in, there's just so many plays in that game where the whole momentum shifts.
Yep.
And you break the lid off that end zone. We couldn't get it done. But there's going to be an opportunity like that.
Yeah.
And when you have it, Ivan Pace gets the pick, get in the end zone. There's going to be a chance for our defense to make plays like that with Stafford and to be back-breaking in this game and flip the momentum and get that crowd that's going to be out west in Arizona in our favor. We have to make them, and I think we're getting an opportunity to do it. And I like to be Van Ginkel. I like Grenard to step up, make a big play. Defensively, our front fours got to be really, really good and active, so our back end can stay home and do what they got to do.
Oh yeah.
I like the sound of that. For a playoff week, do you prep any differently, or do you want it to be just like a regular season game? You don't want anything to change because you've got 17 weeks of routine, and you don't want that next one to be different, or is the playoffs different?
Routine is everything. I mean, you want to go week to week and have it be the exact same. So the fact that we're traveling just like we were traveling before, to us, the mentality shift. All right, road game. Here's how the schedule is exactly going to look. Here's my preparation, my game prep.
Yeah.
I have one game to watch for sure. Let's look at the last 2 or 3 games of the Rams and see what they've done. Like, you're going to go through that same process that you go through every week, just so you feel like when this kickoff is, you're ready to go and you feel comfortable with everything they're going to do in it, and you're prepared. Sometimes you can, because it's a ramped up game,
right,
you can try to go another layer and do more. It's like, you know what? You also have to have the mental capacity to say, you know what? I've seen what I need to see. Now go react and play defensively. I think what you do is you let the coaches think about those things, right? You let the coaches make adjustments in the moment. But the one thing you will find is, just like anything, when it's off season to preseason football, it's a level ramped up. When it's preseason to regular season, it ramps up.
Yeah.
When it's regular season to postseason, the intensity, the speed, the accuracy of what guys are playing with is incredibly sharp. And like, even when you've seen 16, 17 regular season games, you go to the playoff and you're like, this is faster. Guys are just playing faster. Not that it means more. It's just something about the level of intensity, whether that's your own brain or not. Can you slow down mentally, stay in the game, not make mistakes, stay sharp? That's going to be the key.
Now, with all the games you played, there were plenty of other players that had off games like Sam did. Sam had a very off game. Do you do anything differently with Sam this week, or is it exactly the same as what you have done? Do you react any differently, players, coaches, or do you just keep your routine going?
Coaches are going to be the exact same, in my opinion. But I think what Sam will do is when I would have a tough game, I would always go back to my fundamentals, my first step. Where was I making mistakes? Was it my reads? Was I not prepared mentally? Was it physical mistakes, missing tackles?
Yeah.
In Sam's case, missing throws, maybe seeing ghosts, things that aren't there, because he's been so good in the pocket all year, and all of a sudden he got a little happy and quick. And he's got to go back and look at that and say, okay, now when he's warming up for practice this week and he's going through his normal reads, his normal routine, he wants to get back to his base fundamentals. What does my footwork look like? Where's my ball placement when I'm getting ready to throw the football? Like those little things with his eyes, the eye work he's doing when I'm looking for 1, 2, 3, going to my check down. Those little basic fundamentals get an athlete back to sort of zero. You kind of hit that scale, zero it out, and say, all right, we're back to normal now. Hit default. Now let's go play. Because at the end of the day, we can all think about that Detroit game. He can't think about that Detroit game. Yeah. He's got to go forward and play. And I think, I'm speaking for a lot of Vikings fans, we trust him. I mean, he's earned the right to be in this game. He's played his tail off all season, and I can't wait to go see him right the ship.
One of the underrated facets from the Week 8 loss at Los Angeles on Thursday night, and really it takes too long to explain how it got there, but the Rams ran 66 plays. The Vikings only ran 50 plays. Mm-hmm. And they're generally speaking, there have been the majority, if not all the games this year where the other team's running more plays than the Vikings for whatever the reason. But this was disparaging. I mean, this split here, 50 to 66 in a game that really was still a game relatively late in the fourth quarter. What do you think of that? Like only running 50 offensive plays compared to 66 for the adversary.
Yeah, you think about wearing down the defense not having, again, the ability to get off of the field on third down and stop drives. You talk about these long 70-yard drives. Well, that's where we're coming from. We're talking about the time of possession. We're talking about the amount of plays. Yep. That doesn't mean, I think offensively, I forget how many points we scored offensively in that game, but we had a lot of good shots. We tend to take a lot of chunks offensively, so you're going to get less plays in a drive. But it comes down to your third down defense for us. It really does. I cannot talk about this enough. Get yourself off the field. I don't care if you're giving them field goals, get off the field, no sevens, and these long sustained drives wear down teams, and all of a sudden you get to the fourth quarter and you're more fatigued than they are. And it just comes down to the amount of snaps, the amount of time on the field. That's the mental clarity, your mental ability in the fourth quarter to be as sharp as you were in the first and second, because you just get fatigued.
Vikings and Rams Monday night to begin the postseason following the 2-0-2-4. And we're at Buffalo Wild Wings Savage to pump up a little bit. This is the Friday Football Feast. It's PA in Charch. More with Chad Greenway around the corner. Nordo produces and guides the great ship Love Covenant at FM 100.3 KFAN. Thank you very much for coming out today. Thank you, as usual, for listening to KFAN. And we will feast after this.
If they get a first down here, I might throw my binoculars in the crowd.
Chad Greenway is the first featured guest, 9 to noon, from Buffalo Wild Wings Savage. And our man, hey, now we're pumping it up a little bit.
Go.
There we go. What's up, Lonnie Anderson? Good to see you, brother. One of my best friends just arrived. Now, Chad played in 5 playoff games, and I think the record was 1-4. But he had a playoff high. This is when I was going through this. I mean, we have 09.
Why bring that up?
Which had some professional devastation to it. Mm-hmm. Then you got the College Stadium, the kicker wide left. You had 08, the offensive coordinator, the offensive coordinator, Darrell Bevell, stressing all week, from what I was told, to Tavares Jackson, the quarterback. I don't care if Asante Samuel has fallen and you think you have a freebie there on a gotcha. don't throw anywhere near that guy the entire game. Go to the side of Sheldon Brown. And Chad giggles because he knows that was the plan. Very early in the game, Jackson back to pass, shakes the shoulders, fires to the right side. Ooh, intercepted Asante Samuel. There he goes, 30-20-10, pick 6 for the Eagles. But outside of that, what I really like about your playoff run is when it comes to the green and gold, the Green Bay Packers, you had a playoff high 11 tackles in the game at Lambeau Field against Green Bay. So my man brought it against the green and gold every single time. Now, that 2009 season loss at New Orleans, truly, how tough was that for you after being eliminated from the playoffs the way you were?
Well, it's hard to equate like when you're in that locker room after the game. And you're that close to the end goal of getting to the Super Bowl at least. Right. And you can't really put it into words what you feel. Obviously, despair, you're mad, you're upset, you're frustrated, you're PO'd. I mean, it's one of those deals where you look back and say, this may be my only shot. Turns out it was my only shot.
Yeah, right.
To get that deep and have an opportunity to go play in the Super Bowl. So, you kind of look back at that game and say, wow, anytime I bring it up or somebody brings it up to me, it's like, wow, that was a terrible game. And you have all these different things that happen in that game and all these different talking points. And the reality is you think back to like, well, I was a 9-man player in South Dakota and I made it to the NFC Championship game. It's like it was a pretty good run. So it's hard to look back at that game and say that stunk for so many different reasons, which it did, but you got to look at where you're at and have a little perspective too. So, just knowing how hard it is to get there, some of these teams make it look easy. They get there year after year after year. Brady certainly does that. The Chiefs are on that run. But for most players, it's hard. Maybe you get to 1, maybe you get to 0. So, you feel that in the locker room after the game. And then even the weeks after, it stays with you. And I've never watched that game all the way back. I've watched a certain couple plays from that game, just because they've been given to me or presented to me. But it'd be fun to go back and watch it now.
Who's presenting you with that game? Hey, well, Chad, I got a great time for you. Let's watch the 2009 NFC Championship
usually
game.
Meat sauce. Lieber's playing the sidelines.
Yeah, thanks.
But it's just you get a clip out. You see something.
Lieber catches a stray.
Right. It's hey 09's being replayed on so and so
NFL
classic.
Network,
so it's just one of those things. But you look back and I always think, how has HDTV gotten that much better since 09? Because why do we look like we were playing in the 78? That's my first thing. And my kids automatically think I'm older.
Right.
Just because of that alone.
Quick covenant cleanup regarding the tickets for this game. I had the premise right. I had the times wrong. The Rams. So tickets for the Vikings-Cardinals game at State Farm Stadium indeed do go on sale today. I thought what I read was Central Time. It's Pacific Time. So Rams season ticket holders are going to start purchasing tickets at noon. Then they become open to the general public at 2 p.m. Central today. And it is all through SeatGeek. So anybody listening from abroad over the vast and ever-expanding iHeartRadio app and or network, or here at FM 100.3 KFAN, 2 o'clock today, general public can buy seats to the Vikings in Arizona Monday night through SeatGeek.
Back to the 2009 NFC Championship game.
Oh, thank you.
Every now and again I ask you this. I'm not over it yet. Are you? I still am haunted by that game, and I wasn't on the field. I was watching from home. How about you? I'm
100% over it.
You are?
Yes, I've moved on with my life, Charch. I gotta let it go, buddy.
No.
I think
I can't.
You look back and there's so many games and there's so many parts of your career you look back and you're excited about, and they're fond memories, and there's some negatives. And every Friday I come in and get a bunch of negatives on your 1-4 playoff record, or your record against Green Bay, or how many times you lost to Tom Brady. And I always appreciate Nordo and PA doing that to me. But
yeah, no problem.
It's one of those things.
We wanted to do it the last 2 weeks, but you didn't show.
Right. Just like Charchy this time of year. Is it really my fault? Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
How did I end up in the middle of this?
Well, we don't want to bring up Plymouth.
Yeah. We'll be in Plymouth next week, by the way. Plymouth, Buffalo Wild Wings.
That'd be sweet.
Next week.
That will be sweet.
Win this game.
Let's win one.
Let's close with this. Coaching and quarterbacks, all right? To win a Super Bowl, if you look back through the annals of time, about 9.5 out of 10 times, you need the right coach, you need the right quarterback. So consider the coaching aspect of it from the Rams standpoint. Their running back, Kyron Williams, a 5th round pick. In his 3rd year, a 5th round pick. Puka Nacua a fifth-rounder in his second year. The quarterback's already won a Super Bowl. Coaching and quarterback, but specifically coaching and raising these talented kids that are taken on Saturday. It's so much of the equation, right?
It absolutely is that approach with these coaches, I would say these young coaches, both in this football game with the Vikings and Rams, and how they've approached these kids coming in from college, which we can talk about any way we want, but these are kids that are now getting paid in college over the past 3-4 years, a significant amount of money, and they're coming into the league and they have a different mentality. And I think when you have that, it's about how do you approach it. And these guys understand the mentality of some of these young kids coming in and getting the most out of them. I think what Dan Campbell's done in Detroit is almost the most shocking thing, and he can only do it because he played, is they win with toughness and grit and all the things that they talk about, and they live it and they embody it, right? But he can do it because he played, and guys look at him and be like, yeah, I get it.
It's different, right?
I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that for this dude because I've seen him in the trenches. He's been there, done that. I played against Dan Campbell. He's a mountain of a man. I think the approach, KOC played. He's been there. He's done it. He's a player coach, but he can hold them accountable to a certain degree, and it takes a little finesse with that. It takes a little bit of give and take and understanding what they're going through, and then you got to give them a little pat on the back and then a little bit of hard love and then figure out how to get the most out of them. And I think when you get young guys playing at a high level, it's all about confidence, and that comes from the coaching. And if you're going to get, coach is going to, I've been coached up, I've been taught, I understand, I'm going to go play fast. And that's because the coach has allowed me to do it.
You were talking about the Rams and these deep picks. When they bought a Super Bowl, right? They made the trade and they gave up all those first-round picks and everything. Everybody thought the Rams were going to go through an extended losing period. Didn't happen because they drafted so well.
Unbelievable.
With the picks they had.
Yeah.
Well, just to that point, you have to have the guy throwing the football. At the end of the day, you have that position and a good head coach. If you want to win the NFL, you have to have a great head coach and you have to have a great quarterback.
Yeah.
If you have those two things, you're going to have a shot in every football game. And that guy knows how to lead, and Stafford knows how to win, and he's done it for a long, long time. And he has these young, talented guys. They've drafted extremely well. Doesn't matter who they drafted, they got nobody to throw them the ball. And Stafford runs the ship.
Enjoyed the game.
Yeah,
Thanks for stopping by. Chad Greenway, ladies and gentlemen. 5-2 Radio. Now, the AFC kicks off festivities tomorrow with the Chargers and the Texans. When we return, we're going to get into the AFC games and handle them from a point spread perspective and also some fantasy touting from Paul Charchian of GuillotineLeagues.com. It's the Friday Football Feast at Buffalo Wild Wings Savage on KFAN.
Thank you. Minnesota is so hot.
Bayou Bound.
There are 3 AFC playoff games this weekend. You have the LA Chargers at Houston, Pittsburgh at Baltimore, and Denver at Buffalo. The 9 to noon Friday Football Feast cast will handle it from a point spread and a fantasy touting standpoint. Let's begin with the LA Chargers at Houston. The LA Chargers are favored by 3 points. Who do you like with the point spread? And when it comes to the fantasy touts, it's not just for this weekend. It's for those playing the postseason long tournaments that are so readily available all over the place.
At GuillotineLeagues.com.
Including GuillotineLeagues.com. So this first game, go ahead and take it away.
All right. So you mentioned Chargers, one of 2 road favorites in this first round of the playoffs, the other being your Vikings. And I do believe the Chargers are going to win this game. Now, the Texans were my preseason pick to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl, which doesn't look very likely here. And probably, frankly, had they not played, if they'd played in any other division, they probably would not even be in the playoffs. C.J. Stroud has regressed significantly this year. The real problem for Houston, defense has been pretty good. Danielle Hunter's worked out great for them. They got 2 young members of their secondary who've been really good, Derek Stingley and Kamari Lassiter. Lassiter's a rookie who's played really, really well. And then they brought in Joe Mixon, Paul, and Mixon has been pretty good for them, but the problem has been their offensive line is horrible. And Laramie Tunsil, second most overpaid player in the history of the NFL besides Deshaun Watson. That guy is a absolute turnstile, and that offensive line can get nothing going. The offense has completely been out of rhythm. They lost Stephon Diggs, Houston did. They lost Tank Dell, so 2 of their 3 starting receivers gone. And Nico Collins is awesome, but teams try to take Nico Collins away. Now they're trying to beat you with Xavier Hutchinson and Robert Woods, and they just don't have any firepower here. The way Houston can win is just a massive defensive showing from the players that I mentioned, especially Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson.
Yeah.
They're elite ends. They need to be able to wreck the game. Problem is, Chargers have got a great offensive line. They've invested in offensive line year after year. It's a great offensive line. I believe the Chargers are going to hold up here with the offensive line. They will beat you with J.K. Dobbins on the ground and these emerging wide receivers that they've got. The first-year guy, Ladd McConkey, Paul. Yeah. Fantastic season. He looks like one of the 4 best wide receivers to come out of this class. And then Quentin Johnston, who looked dreadful as a rookie. He looked bad for the first half of the season, has really come along nicely. And he's turned into a real factor for them. So just, I think, a better overall team for the Chargers, and I think they both win and cover the 3-point spread.
Dobbins and Johnston are not practicing, so they're very questionable into this game. So follow that from a fantasy standpoint. Can you stab or identify 1 or 2 fantasy players you like here?
Yeah, for Houston, there's not a lot to like. There's Nico Collins, and then it drops off to Joe Mixon and I guess C.J. Stroud, but honestly, I just think they're one and done. And in most playoff formats, you're trying to find teams that will play extended number of games.
Yep.
I don't think that's Houston. For the Chargers, it's more interesting to me. Ladd McConkey would be my first choice. J.K. Dobbins should play in this game. He'd be my second choice. And then probably Quentin Johnson as my third choice if I were putting together a fantasy roster. And I do have a bunch of Chargers on my playoff fantasy rosters, so I think they play at least 2 games here.
For what it's worth, I like the Chargers to win. I like Jim Harbaugh in this spot a lot. I generally don't like to take road favorites, period, especially in the postseason. But I do think this is a class mismatch on many levels. And C.J. Stroud has regressed to a level where it's not like Darnold. It's not like all these dynamite games, then one bad game. For Stroud, it's just been continuous the entire year, the inconsistencies. So I feel quite confident the Chargers will win. I don't like anybody from a fantasy standpoint in this game. The next one is quite compelling because it's a division rival. Pittsburgh and Baltimore. The Ravens are favored by 10 points in this game.
Yes.
Zay Flowers will not play, and I think that's a little bit of a factor, but this is a run-first team. Point spread, fantasy, what are you going to do?
Well, Steelers come in with the least mojo of any team into the playoffs, Paul. They've lost 4 straight games. Wow. Their offense has looked terrible. They had a stranglehold on the division a month ago, and they just yielded it. Gutlessly, might I add. There's a real chance, and it's going to feel weird. This is the last time that we see Mike Tomlin as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers in this game.
Why?
Because his last playoff win is over a decade ago. The fan base is tired of the first round exits in Pittsburgh, and there's a real chance this is the last time we see Mike Tomlin as the head coach of the Steelers.
He'd have to quit because for the Rooneys to fire him is a 1 of 10.
Well, the Rooneys don't do it often. He's the 3rd head coach in the history of the franchise, but he's also been there for 15 years.
Maybe 18.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, it's not like a knee-jerk reaction after 18 years to let your coach go when he hasn't won a playoff game in a decade. And that's what they're looking at. The fan base is really restless with Tomlin, I assure you here. Steelers not only losing games, I mentioned the 4 straight. They've lost 6 of the last 8. And they're getting killed, including a 17-point whipping by the Ravens in Week 16. So this is a rematch of a game played just 3 weeks ago. Ravens will be without Zay Flowers, which you mentioned. Former Gopher, Rashad Bateman, stepped up big in Week 18. He needs to have a big role in this game. And for all the trouble Bateman has had through the first 3 years of his career, boy, it's really starting to come together lately. He's got 6 touchdowns in the last 7 games. For the Steelers, just Russell Wilson, just not good enough at this stage of his career, Paul. They don't have a reliable passing game. George Pickens is okay. Yeah. And then it falls off to Van Jefferson, Calvin Austin. Ugh. So it's just, This offense just not good enough for the Steelers, and T.J. Watt, Cam Hayward can only do so much on defense.
Got a fantasy guy?
Well, I do.
Two?
Yeah, I got a couple. From the Steelers, really nobody. I think I just avoid everybody. If I had to pick one, it would probably be Najee Harris from Baltimore. I think the whole thing now is Mark Andrews is by a mile the best tight end in the playoffs. And so he's the guy I'm trying to get on all my teams because the Ravens could play 4 games and you'd get the best tight end in the playoffs by a big stretch. So he's the guy that is the most desirable for me.
I'll take the Steelers plus 10. And the reason is it's a divisional matchup, all right? And it may not work this time. But when it comes to divisional underdogs, if you take those every single time, you'll make money over the course of time. So I'm going to roll with the Steelers plus 10. And my fantasy players here, if I had to have one each, I would take Lamar for Baltimore.
Yep.
And I would take Freiermuth for Pittsburgh, believe it or not. If you're sleeping on a tight end or sloughing tight ends, Freiermuth has had good games against the Ravens in the past. I would take him. Then you have finally Denver at Buffalo. The Bills are 9.5-point favorites here. And I said this yesterday, but props to Denver, man. I mean, that team was 5-5 and just absolutely swimming in it when it comes to inconsistency, and it rallied to find a way to the postseason. Now, Bo Nix, I just think it's too big for him in this individual situation, but nevertheless, he's better than I thought he would be his first year. So I like Buffalo. I guess if I had to give 9.5, I would give it. I like Buffalo in this spot, and from a fantasy standpoint, I like James Cook quite a bit in this game. What about you?
Love James Cook here. And if, there are 3 great fantasy quarterbacks that you could target in the playoffs. Josh Allen is obviously one of them. You mentioned Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, all mobile quarterbacks that could play 4 games. At running back, you get James Cook, and you've got I think one of the 3 best fantasy running backs in the playoffs, and maybe outscores everybody. If Buffalo's going to play 4 games, and I think they will, Buffalo's going to win. By the way, is there anybody here rooting for Sean Payton and the Broncos? That's what I want to hear. Look, I'm telling you, these 2009 wounds, they're real. We're not over it yet, Paul. I want
2009. It was the Minneapolis Miracle game where he thought he was a 100% winner, went to mocking the skull chant, then had a miracle put on him. But anyway,
that was what year was that? That wasn't 2009. That was 2017. Yeah, that sounds
season.
Right. Yep. He can jam it. I hope he loses. And, but Bo Nix, credit Sean Payton for this. Bo Nix has been way better than I think most of us expected him to be. Playing well. His last 6 games, not counting the Chiefs game last week because Chiefs didn't play any starters, 67% completion rate, 248 yards per game, 2.5 touchdowns per game. But this Denver team has no rushing attack at all. Wow. I can't even tell you who the starting running back is going to be. Nobody has separated themselves. They got 4 different guys that they use rotationally. And I think without a running game, they get really one-dimensional. You take away Cortland Sutton out of that passing offense. They don't have a tight end to turn to. They don't have a running game to turn to. Too one-dimensional for me. And I believe that Buffalo will win. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Denver defense is able to cover the spread of 8.5, Paul.
We hit the NFC about 40 minutes from now. Bike Bites are around the corner. When we hit the NFC, you know the drill. Buffalo Wild Wings Savage. How many people want the Minnesota Vikings to win on Monday night? Buffalo Wild Wings Savage. How many people are pulling for the Commanders at Tampa Bay?
Yeah, for sure.
Buffalo Wild Wings Savage. Dow, 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 da, da, dow, dow, dow. How many are pulling
They're not doing it.
For them middle of the day on Sunday? Okay, you're fools. You're fools. I mean, I guess with all due respect, if you can even have all due respect calling somebody a fool. But, I mean, let's play the game. Let's play the game. And if Green Bay wins and the Vikings lose, so be it. Okay? So be it. But let's get this football team back to U.S. Bank Stadium because it has a greater possibility now than it did 48 hours ago. The Commanders can beat Tampa Bay. I don't think they will, but they can. Green Bay can beat Philadelphia. I don't think it will, but it can. And the Vikings will beat the Los Angeles Rams, right? And 9 to noon is ready for it, the con.
I feel like a jerk. I'm rooting for the pack to win just one game. And I regretfully say I'm rooting for the pack to beat Philly. Come on!
Friday football feast, don't leave.